This is the way the Whitehaven side looks, with Gary Broadbent ever present this season at fullback, Craig Calvert, Rob Jackson, Saima Kisi, Adi Adabisi, Tain Manihera and Greg McNally. The 17-year-old has been in school today, making his debut for Haven tonight. In the forwards, Carl Edmondson, Graham Mattinson, Howard Hill, Andy Gorski, Scott McAvoy and Spencer Miller. And on the bench, Chris Smith, Danny Barker, David Ford and Mark Jackson. The coach is Jed Stokes. The likes of Carl Rudd and Carl Seiss missing from that Haven lineup, along with Leroy Joe and David Fatulofa. No such problems for Salford City Reds. Carl Fitzpatrick at fullback, Matt Gardner, Stuart Littler, John Wilshire, Paul White, Robbie Paul and Richard Myler. Paul Heighton, Malcolm Alker, Craig Stapleton, Ian Sibbett, Andrew Brocklehurst and Jordan Turner in the forwards. And on the bench, Lee Jewett, Stephen Ratchford, Adam Sidlow and Philip Luluai. Coaches Sean McRae. Malcolm Alker leading out Salford City Red side, who've been virtually unstoppable this season. Yet to lose a game in National League One, but they have been held to a couple of draws. And their form, according to their coach Sean McRae, has not been as good as it should have been. But will it be too good for Whitehaven tonight? This is a side, as mentioned, with all sorts of problems. They were very close to going into administration just a few weeks ago, saved by a loan from the local authority, kept afloat, but they still have all sorts of problems, which is why players have been allowed to go. The referee tonight is Thierry Alibert from Albi in France. He's been officiating in this country for the last few weeks. He's in fact taken 6 months off his job to get experience in refereeing in English conditions. And he has charge of tonight's game. We're underway at the recreation ground. It's Salford to kick us off, and the opening exchanges with this Whitehaven side, so weakened by injury, Terry, they're going to be vital for Haven.
And it's perfect conditions for rugby league tonight. We talk about Fatty Lawford and MacDonald and Leroy Joe. They need someone out there to be a leader, do Whitehaven, playing against the Salford side that have got speed up in the middle of the pitch as well as strength and power. And what they really need to do is step up and come face to face with the Salford team and take them on.
And there is Greg McNally wearing 7 for Whitehaven, making his debut. And what a baptism of fire it is for young McNally. As I've said, he was in school today. Tani Manihera back in Cumbrian Rugby League. He's played for all 4 Cumbrian clubs during his career. He's been playing rugby union during the winter, but with the injury problems that they've got, Jed Stokes persuaded him to come back. Now that is a good kick from Greg McNally. That's just what the youngster needs.
That's a good start from the young boy. He's obviously got it all to do today. You talk about debuts, sometimes to be at home for your debut is added pressure, but he's a young man with a great future in the game. When he's finished his exams, he's due to join the Leeds Rhinos club. He's going to spend a month in the environment at the Rhinos, hopefully to develop him to take forward into his Whitehaven career.
He's already spent a week with the Rhinos earlier this year, in fact. Young Greg McNally, a pupil at Whitehaven School. He's 17 and making his debut, but it's really won't take him long if he follows the example of this young man, Richie Myler, who is 18 years old, and if he has the same sort of impact that young Richie Myler has had, he'll do well.
And it's just the confidence that he's been getting, Richie Myler, with playing the games. And Greg McNally, that's all he needs to do, get the confidence by playing with the Whitehaven side. But this Whitehaven side needs to come up with the goods.
Well, Howard Hill came up with the goods there, aided by his teammates.
Howard Hill, for me, is the person that needs to step up. He's got to lead by example in the middle. He's playing at an unusual position of prop forward today, and he really needs to step up to the mark and lead the forwards.
Now here's Adi Adebisi, who's given the Whitehaven supporters something to cheer about. He's agreed to stay on for a further year, committing himself to this club for 3 years. Former London scholar Adebisi, that's where he started. And the first penalty of the game, as the whistle of Monsieur Alibert blows, goes against Salford.
Stuart Littler just trying to buy his team a bit of extra time by trying to hold him down. And that's good play, that, by Rob Jackson, trying to get up to play the ball as quick as he can to give his forwards a bit of a chance.
Well, we saw Whitehaven push Salford close when they met them at the Willows not so long ago, before going down 36-10. A convincing win in the end for Salford, but Whitehaven showed plenty of character in that, but they're going to have to show a bit more than character here tonight. Spencer Miller takes the tackle from his opposite number, Jordan Turner, just inside the Salford 40. Now here's Manihera. Manihera finds Broadbent. Jed Stokes reliant on people like Gary Broadbent taking the tackle there, his captain, ever present this season. And Howard Hill gets the ball away to Andy Gorski, another one of the recent recruits, signed from Halifax. 4 tackles gone. Here's Manihera. Fires the ball up for Carl Edmondson, the big Cumbrian. Takes the tackle, it's on the last. Manihera, little kick across the grain. Oh, Broadbent had it in his hands, surely. And he shows his fury because that almost worked a treat. I don't think he could believe it.
What about that for a kick? He was almost facing his post. Put the ball, a banana kick, and Gary Broadbent just couldn't regather it. That was a certain try.
He had it. He had it in his hands.
He's trying to adjust it in his hands, possibly thinking about getting the ball down, but you know what I mean? You've just got to keep hold of possession and make the most of chances like that. They can't afford to squander in Whitehaven.
Yeah, it was there. It was in his hands and just slithered out of his clutches. Oh, and Gary Broadbent might rue that chance. That's just what Whitehaven needed. And now it's Salford on the counter.
Well, Whitehaven have had all the field position, haven't they? Really putting pressure on this Salford side. But it's interesting to see Robbie Paul already behind acting halfback, trying to speed things around the ruck for this Salford side, because they're really dominating Whitehaven.
And that's the 5th tackle. They're still inside their own 40. Myler might try a 40-20 here. The pitch is very firm indeed. That ball is going to skip away, but Broadbent has been around long enough to know the score. He's been around long enough, including a long spell at Salford.
It's worth mentioning the hill, Bill. You can't judge it from your TV screens, but it's dipping down to our left.
The hillbilly.
Gold car's full of hillbillies, isn't it?
There's Makisi. Makisi takes the tackle and plays the ball quickly. Now Carl Edmondson, promoted to the starting lineup because of these injuries that Whitehaven have. Cumbrian born, but spent a lot of time in New Zealand. Edmondson. Now Graham Mattinson. And that's the 5th tackle. And Manihera, well, his last kick caused all sorts of problems, and that's a good one. Finds touch, keeps Salford down that end of the field. That's where they want them. There's Jed Stokes barking out instructions.
And Jed Stokes will be very happy. He's really commanded the ball, Tiny Manihera, just penning Salford down all the time. And as they trudge back now, you can see all the Whitehaven players talking. And Greg McNally, I've been really impressed with the way that he started this game, talking to his players and really directing his troops, and not scared of bossing the big guys around.
So Salford have barely ventured into Whitehaven territory so far. 6.5 minutes on the clock, and Haven certainly giving their coach what he wanted, a good strong start, but now they're penalised and they weren't square. So this gives the Reds a chance to...
There's 3 players in there, all wondering which 2 are going to be required to be markers. They've got to stand directly behind one another in rugby league, and Salford have got some field position for the first time in this match.
Yeah, the penalty takes them inside Whitehaven territory. And here's Ian Sibbett, restored to the lineup after missing the last game against Featherstone. And he plays the ball just on that 30-metre line, and Stapleton is allowed to build up a head of steam there, the big Australian prop, and he's still going.
He's a big player for Salford, and we watched them when the 2 teams met last time. Stapleton wasn't playing. It were very noticeable to me.
Myler, little short ball back in field to Paul Heighton, and Heighton makes progress as well. Well, their first venture into Whitehaven territory is looking ominous for Haven, because Salford are threatening now. Alker, Robbie Paul Fitzpatrick, but he's well wrapped up. Good defence from Rob Jackson. Jackson makes the tackle. Alker Jordan Turner, that's the 5th tackle. Robbie Paul stabs the kick in, the good chase is there, and Fitzpatrick, I think, has got that one down. He hasn't. Hang on a minute. Referee Alibert decides he's going to take an expert opinion on that from video ref Ray Tennant. Has Fitzpatrick got to that in time and got downward pressure?
The way that Robbie Paul just changes the tempo of his run there. Is he just offside of the 3rd man in on the left-hand side?
This is a better angle. Yeah.
Yeah, he's off. Well, he looks offside from that view, doesn't he?
And it's Fitzpatrick who does follow that up. I think he does get this down.
Yeah, he definitely gets down with pressure.
Do you know, I'm not sure he did, Barry.
He's offside,
but it's what Ray Tennant decides, and no try.
I watched him when he got up and he put the downward pressure on the ball, and Cal Fitz is looking at his fingers. I think he might have even dislocated a finger whilst getting downward pressure, but no try.
But that was the first real threat on the Whitehaven line, and it very nearly came up with a try. McNally, oh, Edmondson's gone without that. And that's the sort of error you can't afford to make.
No, the big prop forward having a little look up there, trying to get out of his own half. But the pass was behind him, but this is the thing with Salford. They look so dangerous, and the amount of movement they have off the ball, you can't afford to give up your field position with simple errors like that coming out of your own half.
So Salford's head and feed, Milo, Robbie Paul, and here is Stuart Littler. Fitzpatrick, well, he seems to have shaken off the bang that he picked up and gets the penalty, trying to get to his feet there. Manahera penalised.
Again, Whitehaven now just trying to control that ruck area. You can't do it from behind the collision. They need to control it in a different way.
A groan of disappointment from the Haven supporters. They've seen their side struggle this season. And it's another penalty that pushes Whitehaven back towards their own try line. Alka now, here is Stapleton once more. Spencer Miller in with the tackle, Gorski as well. Alka now, Robbie Paul. Here is Myler, always threatening, always looking. Richie Myler, but Edmondson dumps him on his backside. Stapleton. Oh, Stapleton has swatted them aside and got over for the try, and he just steamrolled his way to the first try of the game, did Craig Stapleton, his 5th of the season. And the big ex-Cronulla prop has already looked threatening tonight, and that time he carried on threatening all the way to the whitewash.
Big, powerful lad, and when this lad doesn't play, they really do miss him, because he's one of those players who gets him on the front foot. He just takes the direct route, runs, hits Andy Gorski, powers him off, continues over the line and throws Gary's Broadbent over the line. Here you can see the determination in his run. Bang! Get out the way, Gorski. Keeps pumping his legs and takes Gary Broadbent with him.
So after being on the back foot for the first 6 or 7 minutes of this game, Salford very much on the front foot now. And Craig Stapleton with the first try of the game, and giving John Wilshire the conversion opportunity. And he's been in good kicking form since returning to the side. That looks to have pleased the coach, Sean McRae, making his first ever visit to Whitehaven. And Wilshire has landed that one, and Salford ahead by 6 points to 0.
I'm sure Sean McRae will be enjoying his first trip to Whitehaven, a beautiful part of the world. There he is, he looks thrilled to bits, doesn't he? Can't control his...
He has been to Cleator Moor before, so he's lived.
Craig Stapleton did really well for that first try. I think it's important for Salford to play at the line with their pivots. Pick good lines, make good decisions with the ball, and that's what they did for that first try.
So Whitehaven, who've had their moments this season, they've beaten Halifax, they've beaten Leigh, and their most eye-catching performance was a victory over the Celtic Crusaders on an evening here when apparently they were red hot. But that apart, they've really struggled.
There's an important interchange. Mark Jackson has come onto the pitch. Stapleton's been very prominent in these early exchanges. Jackson on to counteract that.
Another penalty goes against Whitehaven. Offside once again. And they're not helping their cause with this indiscipline, which is marching them back down the field. And here's Brocklehurst driving into them again. This time the defence stands up to it, and Brocklehurst just struggling to get to his feet. He's picked up a knock there, and he's struggling to play the ball off. And cruelly, Thierry Alibert says he's knocked on, and Brocklehurst really should have left that for somebody else to play.
It's a cruel game, Bill, isn't it, rugby league? He gets injured.
It's Ian Sibbett,
he hurts
isn't it?
his knee, and no one cares. You've just got to get up and play that ball. Look at him as he goes in. Tiny Manihera just catches round the knee. He can't get up. He's still trying to get up, as all rugby players do. Look at the agony in his face as he's trying to play that ball.
Ian Sibbett it is, I beg his pardon, and he's still struggling. Well, he's going to try and run that off, but doesn't look convincing for the former Warrington and Melbourne Storm man. Had a season with Melbourne in 2002, now at Salford. So head and feed goes to Salford, and that's to Whitehaven. That's a sigh of relief from the Haven point of view.
Haven have got to come up, they've got to complete this set now, take it forward, get players running in motion with the ball carrier, but really come up with a good kick chase, because their energy levels will be really down after defending in the good field position that Salford have had. But that's better play by Mark Jackson, just taking the ball forward with support off Gary Broadbent.
Manihera, Howard Hill, struggling to find a way through there, Howard Hill. Mattinson, great offload now. Broadbent still keeping it alive, and Mark Jackson takes on Philip Luluai, but Luluai wraps him up. But a great pass from Mattinson to Broadbent on the last. Now McNally, they're running it. Well, that ball just pops into the hands of McKesey. McKesey looking for somebody to offload it to. There was a hand in there, was there? 6 to go, says the referee. There was a Salford hand in there. So this is a great opportunity for Whitehaven now, and Carl Edmondson trying to follow Craig Stapleton's example and power his way over the try line. No joy for him. The crowd get behind this Haven side. Broadbent now. Jordan Turner completes the tackle. On the 10-metre line, Manihera. Here's Mark Jackson. Jackson straight up the middle underneath the posts. Salford right on their own try line now. Here is Greg McNally. McNally takes him on himself, and the youngster will get the try on his debut. What a start for Greg McNally. The confidence of youth. And McNally decided he was going to take them on. He was in school earlier today, and he's taught Salford a lesson there. They just switched off for a moment, and 17-year-old Greg McNally gets the try that the Haven fans were hoping for.
And I'm sure his teacher will excuse him if his homework's not in tomorrow. But the confidence, the way that he's just started off. Here we have McKesey, he gets 6 more tackles here. Wilshire just touches the ball. He gets back on it. McKesey was dangerous when these two sides met early on in the year. Look at McNally, he gets the ball, steps off his left, goes through the challenge of Brocklehurst and dives over. Look at the confidence in the lad. Left foot step, goes through Heighton and goes underneath Carl Fitz. He'll be happy with that.
Well, and you can see why the Leeds Rhinos have taken note of this youngster and invited them to train with him in July. And here is Tani Manihera now to level the scores, making his home debut for the club. He's on target, and the scores are level at 6 points apiece. And Haven, as they did at Salford, showing great character.
I spoke to Bob Pickles before, and I was asking him what his characteristics, this young McNally, and he said he's incredibly sharp, both with the ball in his hand and in his thinking power. He's got support outside, inside, just tucks it under his wing, gets down nice and low, and gets the ball down. Jed Stoke will love that.
He certainly did. You saw Ian Sibbett getting strapped up there. So it's a problem for the Reds. Adebisi with a problem there. Oh! Play on, says the referee. Well, he
nearly
somehow
gave
got
himself
away
up.
with it, but he's not going to get away with that. He's in touch. And justice is done. Reds will get head and feed.
He nearly gives himself up. The ball bounces off his chest.
That's a knock
on. But he played on the Salford play, still pushed up. Yeah,
He's giving it to Howard Hill. He's giving it to Howard Hill in a forward position. Isn't that a penalty?
Well, they get head and feed at the scrum, so Whitehaven's celebrations could be short-lived here, because here comes Salford in the shape of Carl Fitzpatrick. And immediately Salford are looking for more points, with Whitehaven back on their own try line. And the penalty goes against Whitehaven, and with a great dramatic flourish, Monsieur Alibert indicates that Whitehaven were offside.
And what will they do? He's going to go and tap it at Malcolm. They feel confident down this end of the pitch.
Alka pops it up to Philip Luluai, and Luluai looking to follow Stapleton's example and barge his way over. That time they held him out, but can they keep Robbie Paul out? No, they can't. Underneath the posts, and that Haven joy short-lived as Salford hit back virtually from the restart. They couldn't deal with the restart, and they couldn't deal with Robbie Paul, and he gets his third try of the season. Had injury problems before the start of the campaign, but he is back and firing on all cylinders.
How many times do you see a mistake after the opposition, after you've scored the try? It all come from this mistake here. Puts his side straight under pressure, as in getting straight back into the game. Very fortunate not to give a penalty away here, passing the ball to Howard Hill. Just see the speed and the thinking that Robbie Paul has to get around the back of the ruck and just dive over the line. Watch him. Luluai plays the ball. Malcolm Hall gets out. He's just got good change of pace, Robbie Paul. He sees the gap, and that's what Robbie Paul is really, really, really strong in his game. The amount of quickness that he has in his mind as well as his body.
Wilshere from in front of the posts lands the extras. Salford ahead by 12 points to 6, and Robbie Paul, who had back surgery before the start of the season, justifying his coach's faith with that try.
Let's give Malcolm Alka a bit of credit there. He's got out, looked one way and passed another. There's got to be a lot of trust between players when you start doing that. Close to the line, sold the dummy completely, and Robbie Paul showing all the strength of a front row forward to get over.
McNally then with the restart. Salford, it hasn't been plain sailing for them this evening. They've got one injury problem already. News of that from Ben Pro.
Ian Sibbett, Bill, it's the left knee that's the problem. He's got ice on it in the Salford dugout there, as you see. The word from the medical team is that he will stay off the field of play till the half-time break. They will assess the injury during the interval and make a decision then as to whether Ian Sibbett returns for the second period.
Meanwhile, Andy Brocklehurst plays the ball. Alka typically picks up a little scoop from the captain. Takes his side forward, Robbie Paul. Here is Jordan Turner. And he's lost that ball. Knock on from Jordan Turner. Alka furious, indicating that that ball was stolen, but touch judge and referee in perfect harmony there. And
well, I don't know. Jordan Turner, very skillful player. Again, a guy with a big future in the game. Unfortunately, he's put Salford under a bit of pressure. Whether it's his fault or not, they've got the ball.
Spencer Miller links with Rob Jackson down that short side. Adebisi, whose howler contributed to that Robbie Paul try, really, putting his side under pressure. Here's Mark Jackson, and Jackson, rugged prop forward.
They need to trail him round the back. Mark Jackson, very good at offloading the ball.
Now here's big David Ford, just 21 years old. He's 21 today, in actual fact, just playing that ball, and he was, I think there was a hand in there, judging from that signal from the referee. Luluai is penalised.
There it is, they're just trying to slow him down. He got on the wrong side of him. Luluai knew that he'd won the forward battle there, and Jed Stokes singly for the 2 points. Knowing that his side really 6 points behind, but they're coming up with the good results. They're winning, starting to win the play the balls. They've got a lot of people supporting. They look very confident. There's a lot of talk from this Whitehaven side.
So a penalty opportunity for Tani Manihera, who's got other things on his mind tonight. His wife Gillian was due to give birth yesterday to their second child, and as yet there's nothing happening. So he's a bit anxious, and his wife's a bit anxious, and she's here tonight, and he's hoping that there'll be plenty of excitement and that maybe things will get speeded up a bit. Well, 2 points for Whitehaven will certainly lift the crowd and lift their hopes. Manihera has landed it. 12-8 in favour of the Salford City Reds at the moment.
Again, it's important for them to make the most of the possession. There is a downward slope, so it's important that they get as many points on the board before they need to go uphill. The downward slope is to the left.
Can you see a slope?
I must admit, I've played on this field a few times. I've never seen a hill. You want about the hills behind?
So can Whitehaven deal with this restart? Well, Jordan Turner has fired it straight down the middle of the field, and Spencer Miller is underneath it. So 12-8 Salford lead. And here's David Ford again.
And as the game goes on, we're going to 23 minutes now. The Whitehaven team will be the more confident, because Salford have come up here thinking that they've got to come away with the result, and the pressure's all on Salford and not on Whitehaven. They can just go out, enjoy the night, and enjoy playing rugby league.
Howard Hill tackled just inside his own 40 metres and didn't like the attentions of Stuart Littler. And now here's Gary Broadbent. That's the 5th tackle. Manihera, McNally, they're running it on the last, and they're keeping it alive, and that's good work. Oh! And Scott McAvoy just couldn't get the pass away. He was just going to ground, trying to get Saya Makisi away.
Unlucky again, young McNally making the decision to run it on the last, pass the ball onto his second row, who'd broken the line but couldn't keep his feet long enough to get the ball away.
It was important intervention from Wilshire, in fact, that just tapped the ankles of Scott McAvoy. Now here's Brocklehurst taking Salford just inside the Whitehaven half. Alka takes him down the short side. Wilshire again. Tackled by McAvoy and McNally. Lee Jewett. They've got some size on the bench of Salford, with Jewett, Luluai and Sidlow available. Alka takes him on his own. That's the 5th tackle. What will Myler pull out of his bag of tricks here? It's a little kick into the corner, and it's well dealt with by Craig Calvert, and Calvert is away. Now then, can we see the pace of Craig Calvert? Calvert's taking on Fitzpatrick. Paul White is coming across. We've got some of the fastest guys in the game out there, and Paul White was there to make the tackle. Robbie Paul in support as well. For a moment, I thought as though Calvert was going to get away, but Adebisi could here if Jackson can set him free. But that's a good tackle from Jordan Turner, and they're switching it from one wing to the other of Whitehaven. Now then, what can they come up with here? Mattinson up the middle. Oh, and Mattinson couldn't get the pass away to Spencer Miller, but that was exhilarating stuff from Whitehaven. First from Calvert, then from Rob Jackson, and almost through the middle for Spencer Miller.
Exciting rugby league. He puts the kick in, it bounces perfectly for Calvert. But look at the acceleration here. He sees he's in the clear. Carl Fitz doesn't commit though. He backs off, he beats him, and Paul White comes from the other side of the pitch to slow him down.
You know, I think if he'd have hugged the touchline, I think he could have outpaced Cal Fitz there. But again, good invention in good field position. You don't mind handing the ball over on your opponent's line.
Mark Jackson with a vigorous tackle, shall we say, which Andy Brocklehurst didn't approve of. So Salford given warning that this Whitehaven side can play some sparkling rugby league. They showed that against the Celtic Crusaders. The fans still talk about that one. Myler just outside his own 40 and out on the full. Can't believe it, the youngster.
The pressure's building, isn't it? They come at the break. Richie Myler goes for the big kick, the 40-20, goes out on the full, goes back to where he kicked it from. And the pressure's all on this Salford side. Whitehaven are playing with so much confidence, going end to end.
Well, as you say, they've got nothing to lose.
No, and I think that they knew that, and especially this guy. The Salford team are trying to target Greg McNally in defence because he's having such a big influence on this game.
Howard Hill and Sidlow straight in his face, and Luluai there as well, the heavy mob. And there's a little bit of spice creeping into this game, and the penalty goes against Salford. Sidlow just on the field, and he is penalised. And Manihera has indicated he's going to go for 2 more points. Well, he has been playing rugby union during the winter.
Just chipping away at the scoreboard. Only 12 points to 8 against this 12-10. They're back in the hunt. Whether it's another penalty that they get or whether they get the confidence of going forward and binning this result. Only 13 minutes going into the break. I'm sure they would have been happy with this result. If anyone would have said to them before the game, 27 minutes, it'll be 12 points to 8, they would have been happy.
Tay Manihera first came over to this country 15 years ago with the junior Kiwis, alongside Henry Paul, David Fatialofa. And he's still around, and he's launched that one, and it's just crept over. He doesn't have a great run-up. Round the court, it's almost a U-turn, his run-up. But he landed that one, and he's narrowed the gap. 12-10 the scoreline now.
Again, Sidlow giving away a foolish penalty, really. Jed Stokes in the picture, he'd be really pleased with his side's start to the game. Sean McRae, however, disappointed. They've had a few good patches, but they need some consistency in this match. Build pressure.
Jordan Turner with this restart. And Tani Manihera underneath that one, and then finds Mark Jackson. Jackson doing what his coach wanted when he sent him on. Fight fire with fire out there.
That's a big, powerful run, isn't it? Just the way they gritted his teeth, took the ball forward. And again, they just lifted, haven't they?
Well, a gulf in class between these sides, according to the table. Salford second from top. Whitehaven second from bottom, with just 3 wins in their last 10 league and cup games. But they're showing their form tonight. And this time Calvert will take on Fitzpatrick, and Fitzpatrick will make the tackle. But a quick play the ball. They're still coming forward, and Salford are still coming back. And McNally will get his second try of the night. And precocious skill there from this youngster. An outrageous dummy. Calvert set it up, and the Haven fans can't believe this. They've come back with a vengeance of Haven to snatch the lead, and this young man is having the debut of his life.
What an outstanding talent this young Greg McNally is. The width that they play here, and again Craig Calvert showing the speed. Carl Fitz doing really well here, but he gets up, he plays the ball really, really quick. Blood forward in numbers, this Whitehaven side, and McNally just backs up, shows the dummy. It looks like he's a senior pro. And look at him here. He gets out Broadbent, flings the ball back inside. That's professional, that. He's a real talent for this British game, for this Whitehaven side. Jed Stokes really, really happy.
Well, he'll be happy because his faith has been justified. They've been clamouring locally for Greg McNally to be given his chance after some outstanding performances in the reserve grade, and when you put your faith in a 17-year-old, you really are asking a lot. But McNally so far justifying it, and Tani Manihera is justifying his recall to rugby league with that conversion. 16-12, Whitehaven lead, and McNally is rallying the troops.
Sometimes in a kid you get no fear. He's not bothered, he just wants to run with the ball, enjoy his rugby league. You only have to look at his coach, the way he's enjoying the game, to know that that's what he wants his players to do. The Salford line hadn't reset, and he just ran with it.
What's that saying? If you're good enough, you're old enough.
Well, that's given Salford something to think about. Whitehaven written off in many quarters because of the absence of so many key players. Ryan McDonald, Carl Seiss, Carl Rudd, Leroy Joe, David Fatialofa. None of them available. Some of their seasoned players
and there are big stars that are missing. But with the players that are missing, sometimes it gives well, we've got nothing to lose. Let's just get out there and do our best. And that is what they're doing. Look at that for a run by Mark Jackson.
But as we saw at the Willows, with this Whitehaven side, of course, you're talking about the part-timers of Haven up against these full-timers of Salford City Reds, and the pace certainly told on Whitehaven as that game progressed down at the Willows. So whether they can last the pace tonight is open to discussion.
If they control the ball, Bill, and they come up with a good kick chase here and pen Salford down here, they can definitely control this game.
Well, McNally's kick has landed straight in the arms of Fitzpatrick, but it's McNally making the tackle on the follow-up alongside Spencer Miller, the Scottish international. And Whitehaven all offside, and they are penalised.
Those are the things that are going to let this Whitehaven side down. They can't let their enthusiasm overpower their discipline. Stay on side and make Salford work hard to get away from their own line.
10.
That penalty takes Salford just inside the Whitehaven half. Now here's Sidlow. Plays the ball on that 30-metre line in the Haven half. Robbie Paul. Here is Philip Luluai. Howard Hill cuts him down. Jewett. Little step from the former Wigan player. Made 2 substitutes appearances for the Warriors. Now here's Myler, looking to show that anything there number 7 can do, he can do too. Earns the penalty, I think you'd say.
Richie Myler just trying to put this Whitehaven team under a bit of pressure, trying to take them on and come up with the play, and try and lift his side, as you quite rightly say, like Greg McNally's doing for Whitehaven.
Alcott takes the tap. Brocklehurst doesn't make much progress, but Whitehaven under pressure now on their own try line. Jewett, great offload from him. Alka then the link with Myler. Robbie Paul fires the ball up. They're in here. Sidlow with the try, and Sidlow gets his first try of the season for the Salford City Reds. Had a spell playing in Cumbria, Adam Sidlow. That's probably why there are extra boos for him, because he played for Workington briefly, and he scored a try that has quickly dispelled the euphoria among the Whitehaven supporters.
The pressure come from Richie Myler. It come from the offload here, actually. Jewett goes into the tackle, turns around, looks for the second phase. A long ball out wide by Richie Myler. Robbie Paul takes it to the line, pulls in the defenders. Adam Sidlow, it's a good line, just has the strength to go over. Look at the pass off Richie Myler when he gets the ball off Jewett here. It's a 20-yard pass. Robbie Paul takes it to the line, interests the defenders, and Adam Sidlow just hits a real good hole outside the Whitehaven defender.
So Sidlow's first of the season levels the scores. He's 20 years old, still with a lot to learn about the game, but another one with big potential in this Salford side. And Wilshire looking to maintain his 100% record with this kick to put Salford back in the lead. Just about exactly the same position from where he landed his first one when Craig Stapleton went over. Gentle stroke of the ball from the PNG international, and Salford back ahead by 18 points to 16.
I think this is a quality try. As I said, pivots running at the line, asking questions, waiting for people to run out. And the reason I like Sidlow's try is he has the ability to swap it from one hand to another, handing players off, and that's good core skills, that.
Referee Monsieur Alibert and Gary Broadbent having a discussion on the halfway line about something. Mark Jackson, meanwhile, leaving the field to be replaced by Carl Edmondson. But Jackson certainly has put his shoulder to the wheel while he's been on the field. McNally with the restart, and here comes Philip Luluai, and he just charges past Simon Kesey. Brushed him aside, eventually his tackle, but he's made good progress. Now here's Matt Gardner. He's tackled on the 30. McAvoy could have been penalised there. Luluai, David Ford and Edmondson making the tackle. Jewett, screams of forward from the Haven supporters down below us. Jewett plays the ball on the halfway line. Alka straight up the middle. And that's the 5th tackle. And Myler, he'll hoist this one, and they're putting Adebisi under pressure, but Broadbent comes for that and makes it his. Absolutely, no question about that. That was Gary Broadbent's ball.
He just comes forward and commands that ball. He's so brave, Gary Broadbent at the back, jumping for them high balls, whether the big lads are coming through, like Luluai, he'll always put his body on the line.
Adebisi plays the ball. Here is Rob Jackson. Former Wigan and London Bronco player Rob Jackson. Now McKesey. McKesey, a good offload from him. And then Chris Smith, another youngster out there. He's 18 years old, plays the ball. Another one on his debut. Now McNally, maybe hoping for a 40-20. Didn't have the legs, straight into the arms of Carl Fitzpatrick. He's across the field, Fitzpatrick, and he's cut down on the 30-metre line by Howard Hill.
That was a good set of 6 for Whitehaven, and good to see the outside backs coming in and helping the big Whitehaven pack out. Every one of them getting in there, knowing that the Whitehaven forwards have really laid this platform for them.
And to complement that, the work that his forwards and his backs are doing, young McNally again, he's having a growing influence on this game.
Jordan Turner almost breaking through the tacklers there. Howard Hill and Rob Jackson eventually stopping his progress, but that's good progress from Lee Jewett. That's the 5th tackle. Myler now, they're running it on the last. Sidlow gets the ball wide, and White manages to stay on his feet, and then it's knocked back, and Adebisi will chase this one. Can he gather? Oh no! Adebisi couldn't take that one in. Had he done so, surely he was away. Now then, the crowd saying that surely there was an earlier knock-on from Salford, but Adebisi had some advantage there, didn't he? There is Greg McNally. What a first 40 minutes he has had.
Yeah, let's just look at the influences he's had on the game, whether he's been kicking the ball out of his hands, and his players and his teammates been respecting what he's doing. And he's come in and he's had 2 tries again, and that again is a great try for a young man, showing incredible maturity. And after the break made by some of his teammates, he's just on the spot. There's nothing on for him on the outside, and he just thinks, I'll have a go. A great prospect, fantastic player, and well done Jed Stokes giving a young guy the chance.
So Salford head and feed after that little episode when, if Adebisi had taken that pass, he could have been in. Now then, Wilshire, as Salford look to put a bit more distance between them and this stubborn Haven side before the half-time hooter sounds. And they've got tackles in the bag here. Brocklehurst. Brocklehurst has lost that ball. It's gone backwards, says the referee. No, it hasn't. He looked to the judge and gets a second opinion and awards Whitehaven head and feet at the scrum, and good refereeing there from Thierry Alibert in coordination with his officials. He does speak very good English, in fact, this referee from Albi.
Just wrapping up the ball, throwing him to the ground, and dead right, he does lose it. He's looking for the offload. Now really pressured this Salford side. He'd handling us, but he's a great referee. He's come over, Thierry Alibert.
Wait, is it 13?
He's a telecoms engineer back in France, but he's been given 6 months leave by his employer to spend time refereeing full-time over here, with the aim that when he goes to the World Cup as the French representative among the officials, he will be up to speed, and he might well be refereeing in Super League before long.
It's going to be an interesting half-time speech by Sean McRae. Jed Stokes obviously going to be very happy with what his troops have been doing, with ball in hand and even in defence, and putting the team under pressure. But Sean's going to have to come up with it.
The hooter sounds with Whitehaven in possession. Spencer Miller takes the tackle, and the applause and the boos ring out. The boos well, is part of the form, but the cheers for this Whitehaven side who've defied the form book and the injury problems that have confronted them tonight to really take the battle to this Salford